14th, 2022 at 2 p.m. This is the September meeting of the Public Art Committee. We are in the second floor media room of City Hall. Megan, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Christopoulos?
Here.
Ms. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Stackhouse has excused absence. Mr. Toth has excused absence. And Chair Jennings?
Here. We have no guests today. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? A second? Lucianne? Are there any comments, corrections?
Yes, I have a correction on the Safford Gateway project. The first paragraph, I was probably not clear in expressing what we did. There are two ways to issue a call for artists. One is to request proposals, which means the applicant sent back their ideas in sketch form, whatever. The second way is to simply request qualifications of artists who may want to participate. In that case, then there is a second stage of selection. So I offered those two choices to the committee, and the committee chose to ask for request for qualifications, RFQ,
Right.
as opposed to RFP.
Okay. So what would be the exact change in wording for the first paragraph?
It could be as simple as the PAC decided to make its call for artist a request for qualifications,
Okay.
RFQ, instead of a request for proposals, RFP.
Okay. Any other comments from any members of the committee? Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Lucianne? Bill, second?
Yeah, I'll say.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved as amended. Old business, the sports field mural project. Bill?
Well, the call for artists went out. Any feedback or any?
That's why I printed this out again for your handouts, because the only feedback I got was from an artist, and she was concerned that we wanted the entire building painted for $1,000. She thought that that was a very, very low fee for an entire building. And I responded to her and I explained about the insurance provisions and why we put it at that, rate. And I also told her that she was welcome to submit a proposal and, request additional funds if she'd like. But if she went over the $1,000, that, she would be required to carry insurance. I said, but you can also go ahead and request that you'll do one or two sides of the building, for the $1,000.
Right.
I said, it's up to you. So I think she understood that, very well. She did not submit a proposal. I also sent it to the young lady who did the Sisler Field, and she responded that she was going to look at it and possibly submit a proposal, and I did not get anything. So
Okay.
we put it out a couple times in different places, and I just think, if we want to continue this, which I think is a great idea, that we should amend it and just, do it maybe $1,000 per panel, per side.
Okay, that might be, clarifying it might help getting the thing. The other thing I was wondering, Diane, when somebody looks at this, it's like very busy. I was wondering whether we could have like a cover page that's, more simplified, and then have this, and perhaps the pictures of the building smaller on a second page. do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really think that Bill did a good job of, the second page, because it really does clearly show the buildings and,
Oh, yeah, no, but I
But-
mean, if we, yeah,
condense it
either
to
that
one
or
page.
make it 3 pages. I mean, we're not gonna be printing these really.
Okay.
Bill, how do you feel about that?
Up to you, it doesn't matter.
Lucianne, do you think that would perhaps attract more attention?
It probably would, but I think the main sticking point is,
The price?
yeah,
And
and
the
we,
fee.
And
we
we
knew
changed
from
that.
the get-go.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
said that, we originally started off with it being one side, and then we made it more ambiguous so that, because we wanted a continuity with the entire building, So it's problematic, but
Yeah,
step through it.
Not unexpected.
No, not unexpected.
yeah. Well, it was confusing, because I also communicated with her. She sent me a message. Maybe under the budget paragraph, we could put the fee paid to the artist for a mural for each wall. Is $1,000, does that make a little more sense?
I would, may I?
Sure.
I would suggest each side, because the front has 2 walls.
Okay. Any other comments, suggestions?
I think we would want to focus potentially on the south-facing side and the east-facing side, because they're the most high-profile.
Correct.
So I'd like to see those be the first 2 if we go side by side.
Okay.
And, if we can finish around the building, that's fine, but that back sections, if you painted it a complementary color, I think would hold its own without needing a whole lot of it.
Right.
But, just 4,000 might be a lot for
Right,
all 4
oh, yeah, for
sides.
murals, yeah.
Is where I was going with that.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that we should offer the south and the east facing sides as one, for the 1,000?
No,
Oh,
I was
just the
saying,
opposite.
no, I was saying those should be the focus, those 2 sides first. The east
But-
side and the south side.
Perhaps the call could be worded that way, that it's $1,000 a side, but we're looking in particular for the south and east sides.
Or just say we're gonna do the south and east side. At least get it rolling with that.
We can do that. I mean, that's
That
where
might
we
be
started out
clearer.
with just the south side being 1,000 but yeah,
So,
I'll take another look at it if,
Yeah.
the
But we
south
need-
side doesn't have a whole lot of surface area, though, because it's the actual
Correct.
concession stand.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to me, that could be paired with the west-facing side, because there's also a lot of activity on the, that's the,
Tennis?
no, the playground side, and there's always a lot of people, there's activity there as well. Could those 2 sides be paired?
That's a good idea.
Possibly.
South and west, and north and east.
What,
Because
for $1,000 a pair?
Well, no, we could, as Bill suggested, like what was done at Sisler Field, you just pick up a solid color, and just do a wall of solid color to just complement the mural. Is that what you had in mind?
well, there's some areas that are pretty low profile, like the back of it is, there's not a whole lot that goes on back there, so.
But I think Bibi was just saying that there is a whole lot that goes on back there, that
That's where the playground is.
it's busy because of the playground.
Well, I was on the back side of it, which is actually the north side.
On the north side.
is-
Oh,
Okay,
north
which
side,
is actually the
sorry.
only blank wall, the only completely blank wall.
That's correct. Everything else has some things going into
Yeah.
it, which would have to be integrated into whatever
Yeah.
the artist
And
comes
that
up with.
back wall is always in shadow anyway, so.
Yeah. But we can do it in whatever the group decides.
Or we could, for now, do you want to pull the north-facing wall? That might make it a little easier.
But you could do it in 2 phases, too.
Getting it to merit
You
Viva.
could do phase 1 with the
No, but
2
I have
that
it
you
off. I don't
want.
know why my watch is going off. It's
Yeah,
supposed to be pink.
and then do a phase 2 you know, after the phase one is completed, just like we did at
Yeah, with
Sisler.
Sisler.
That's a good idea. So you want to revise so, Bill, you'd say the south and west facing? No, south and east facing.
Whatever everybody would like, doesn't matter.
You want to do the south and east facing as the first phase?
Okay.
Lucianne, do you kind of,
I'm confused. Is that a $2,000 project or a $1,000 project?
It's two $1,000
Two
projects.
1,000, okay. That sounds good.
okay. Diane, we can work on rewording the call.
Yeah, that's
I think
fine.
it's pretty easy on that.
Do you need me to do anything, or are you guys gonna just rework that?
Well, what we can do is we'll work it and we'll pass it by you
Okay.
for approval. How's that?
Or if you want
Doesn't
to, if
matter.
you want to do
No,
it.
Yeah.
that's fine.
No, you're going to do it, Bill.
Nope,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, Bill.
I just didn't want to shirk any responsibilities, so that's.
No, so you can reword it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, this is your baby.
Sounds good.
Okay. Moving along, our current project updates. There's a very extensive report from Steve Oliver on the Black Heritage Project. You know, I was gonna present it verbally, but I asked Diane to print it out because it does go on and on and on and on. He continues to interview people and solicit images. The one thing, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I did have a meeting with Mark LaCourse, Paul Smith, and the mayor, and they seem, as I do, have some objections to the location for the sponge docks. You know, in that median by the trolley stop. They just feel that it's a little too cluttered in there. It's, you know, it's a trolley stop, people will be standing there, and people are gonna be looking at the sculpture, so you're gonna have kind of a clot of people there, which is not ideal. And it's the entrance to the docks. So they just felt it should go back. Diane, when we did our drive around, I think it was by, you know, that little information building closer to the water where I think we can relocate the acrylic manatee,
Oh,
unless anybody has any strong feelings about the acrylic manatee.
who installed that, though? I don't recall,
Years ago, there was, I think before I came to Tarpon, there was some kind of promotion to paint those things, and, you know, and I think businesses sponsored it, the chamber might have
the chamber did it. because I
sponsored
don't
it and
recall
stuck it there, yeah.
public art, yeah.
It seems to be, you know, the last of its breed. I don't see, it's an endangered species. I shouldn't say that, someone will try to save it. Being recorded.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to discuss that with Stephen. Lucianne, how do you feel about that, the relocation?
I don't have those particular areas very solidly lodged in my brain, but if that many people think it's going to be a traffic issue, then I think.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah.
Graham?
Yeah, I'm fine with relocating it,
Okay.
yeah.
Biba?
This was before my time, so I don't even know what the sculpture looks like, you know,
Oh,
that's
okay.
being put down there, or what, I'm not aware of the situation to be able to
Diane, isn't it
comment.
in her binder?
Oh, where?
Yeah, go back, it should be a few meetings back.
Okay.
Like, you mean the Pelican?
And
No,
if-
no, no, the Stephen Oliver.
And if
Oh.
I didn't print that far back, it should be on that thumb drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I have as far
It's
back
kind
as
of like an
July
arch.
is-
It's kind of like an airy arch that's,
Was it July? When did he present? I can't
Maybe
remember.
July.
yeah.
I'm looking. See if I can- Yeah, because I have no idea what that.
Well, anyway, we'll,
Yeah, sorry.
Biba, were you here when he came to make his you weren't, oh,
I was
okay.
not.
yeah, I think she came right after that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here, so I'll have to look Yeah, so I don't even.
Yeah, it would
if
probably
anybody
be-
wanna describe it to me?
Right, yeah. It'd probably be a good idea to catch yourself up on that,
Yes,
because, you know, it's one of our bigger projects at the moment.
and if at the dock, so that has.
Yeah, well, there's two phases, one at the docks and one at the Union Academy neighborhood,
Okay,
like on the corner of MLK, and I always forget the other street name.
okay,
I can confirm which meeting it was, and then I'll email you and let you know where to refer
where to
for it.
look, okay.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything else about the Black Heritage Project?
Seeing,
Okay.
I had also, excuse me, I had emailed Stephen Oliver, he's up in Maine right now, and asked him that when he comes back to Florida, that we need to get together and get the Public Works people involved and just really kind of make sure that everybody's on the same page with whatever locations are chosen.
Right, right.
Because I've learned recently that there's a lot more that goes into it than just picking a piece of land. So,
Okay. Illuminated Art Boxes, Graham?
So far, we have received submissions from 38 artists. They've sent in, between them, 112 images. I emailed all of the people on Diane's list of places to email. Plus, I added a few that I came up with myself, like the local driveway newspapers to see if they put it in their events calendar, the one down in St. Pete, the St. Pete Artists Alliance, the Tarpon Springs Photography Society, and a couple of others. Most of them were and the people who, the person who runs the Pinellas County Schools Art Department, the group there. He was very enthusiastic, but unfortunately, none of the students have actually submitted anything. And so I contacted a few teachers at different schools, and they were equally enthusiastic, but again, none of the students have submitted anything, so that's a bit of a shame. I was very disappointed that the Pinellas, what do they call themselves?
Creative.
Creative Pinellas are no longer interested in our calls to artists. That's what they told me, that they do not deal with those sorts of things anymore, that I should contact the individual arts societies in the different cities.
interesting.
That's interesting.
That's
So
consistent with my experience.
Shocked, to say
too.
the least.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
They no longer publish their magazine, which they used to, so I'm told.
Interesting.
It was, an online magazine, so I don't know, maybe the person who did it just left or
yeah,
whatever.
staffing issues.
But yeah, so all in all, I think we're pretty lucky to have 112 images and 38 artists.
That's kind of consistent with our past calls, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, we usually get more than 100 for each call.
Yeah, we have a couple of weeks to go,
Right.
and hopefully we'll get some more artists submitting some more images.
Well, I'm about to tell you about a new source. I got a call from Carrie Rupp-Calvis from the Tarpon Springs Library. She's the director. And Trish Gregory, formerly one of our committee members, is doing a photography class at the library. So they're going to publicize it, to the people taking the photography course. Diane, do you have any other comments
Yes,
about
it's,
that?
I sit on the board for the library as well, and when they were talking about their, what they had going on, especially like for the 25th anniversary celebration and everything, they mentioned the photography contest, and so I told them about the one Public Art was doing, and so I said, it might be great if, I said, ours, ends on the 30th of September, but it might be nice if they could submit, if they're interested, into ours as well. So Carrie, there's what they're doing is they have, their artwork printed out, whereas we have ours digital and everything. So in order not to confuse the people that are submitting, they're gonna keep them separate, but also put them both out, for everyone. So hopefully we'll get some from that as well. And I talked to Carrie today, and she's gonna publicize, it, so that'll be good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else on that one, Graham?
No, just ever hopeful.
Okay, now, if you, in your packet also is the proposed plaque for the Pelican. And I think we're gonna need a bit of a discussion on this. Diane reminded me that we haven't had the photo op with the mayor and the woman who won the contest naming the Pelican Peter. And the Pelican was named by catching some rays by the artist because it was done with a Rays logo. He did it, for the team, so to speak. I don't know if we want to keep that. And, it's referenced, both in the title and in the text of the plaque, the suggested wording for the plaque. The name that was chosen was Pete, and I found out that that was in honor of her deceased brother. And they're the family that owns the Two Georges, the charter fishing boat that's docked pretty much adjacent to the Pelican. And I was wondering whether it might be more interesting to include some wording to that effect, and not doing the catching some rays, but I want your feedback. I'm at sea about this one. Lucianne, do you have any feelings?
I do. We specifically asked the artist to change the TB on the cap to TS.
Right.
For Tarpon Springs, so, and then we did our contest, so I don't see that the rays have any relevance.
Yeah, I agree.
However, you can perceive it two different ways. In St. Pete, it was perceived as Tampa Bay Rays, but we're in Florida, catching some rays. He has a baseball cap on, that could be perceived as the
So what do
sun,
you
too.
do with Pete?
You could rename it, and with the contest and everything, but I'm just, just saying that I guess that name, I don't know if people would, that people that are visiting or just regular residents would see, go up to the statue and say, catching some rays. I think they would perceive it as the sun, not necessarily Tampa Bay, rays. So that's just my opinion.
It's like saying Pete, the Pelican formerly known as catching some rays.
Yeah, you could just take it out completely. I don't think it needs to be in there, and you could say, based on a contest, conducted by the Public Art Committee, Tarpon Springs Public Art Committee, such and such was, had the winning name of, Pete the Pelican, so. It's
I
whatever you
think
want.
his quote has validity with
For the
Pete the
piece.
Pelican.
Right.
It speaks to that.
It certainly does.
To me, it gets confusing if you have too many titles.
The only concern I have, and I'm sorry, but I need to voice this too, is that, when an artist creates a piece of art, they name it, just like us saying the Naiads, we want to change it because it's down at the end of the Sponge Docks and we want it to have a different name. It's like, I don't know. Or a story time, sculpture. From an artist's perspective,
You don't just change the title, it's true.
you just
I would
can't,
not be happy if somebody changed one of my titles because they felt like it.
I feel like we should have had this discussion before we had our contest,
Yes, I agree.
because we're now kind of out there.
well, why can't we include both?
Yeah, just
I mean, the
put,
title of the
Pete the
piece of art-
Pelican, and underneath it,
Totally
in
separate
parentheses, put catching some rays.
Yeah, catching some, Pelican Pete, catching some rays.
There we go.
I mean,
That
the
works
title of the piece of art is not the same as the name of the Pelican himself, so I don't, yeah.
Right,
Well, up here at the top, where it says catching some rays, I think we can change that to Pete, or something. You could put like, say hello to Pete, you could put anything up there you want, and then you have the artist's paragraph, and then you could add a paragraph that talks about the contest and the winner and any backstory that you want to include.
okay. Well, I can work on that if people are on board with changing it. That was my thing. So, incorporating both, Pelican Pete and Catching Some Rays works for me. Lucienne, I think. Yeah, Bill, how do you feel?
Yeah, you need to get the Pelican Pete in there.
I mean, you can even say, take a pic with Pete or something, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a pic with Pete the Pelican.
And in the
Okay.
description, you can have the title of the piece. you know.
Right, and of course, we can leave Mike Elwell installed. And, yeah, as everyone said, that quote is great.
Joan, do you want to rework it and they can vote on it in the next meeting?
Yeah. Either that, or maybe I could rework it and we could just email it out for, to get
We
this
can't vote on anything via
email,
an
right?
email.
Okay. All righty, so this will go to October, and hopefully we'll be able to get the plaque done.
I don't think the plaque will take too long.
Yeah. Okay. And then we can make an arrangement. It would probably be better, because we'll be in, during season, more people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then did you want
Do
to
we-
have the committee take a picture with the woman who named it, or?
Sure, I
I
think
mean,
that would
I
be fun.
just, again, you've got to coordinate what date and time. I'd have to check with her first and see
Right.
when she's available, and then,
May I ask something?
Sure.
Yeah. Do we use landmark for plaques and things like that, or do we have a,
we use one on 19, it's, oh gosh, what's it called, signs? Fast signs. Yeah, fast signs on
oh,
19.
are they a local business or a chain?
He has a local, he owns it locally,
Okay.
but it is part of a chain, of course, it's a franchise or
Franchise,
whatever.
yeah.
The
Like
city
the
has
UPS
a,
store.
the city has an account there. I mean, landmark is an option too, it's just that I don't get things very quickly. So,
No, I was
fast
just.
signs is fast.
Yeah, I was just, I was just wondering if we were using a local business for our local business, or whether we were using a national chain. That's,
Well, like the printing for the art boxes is done by UPS, but it's the store in Tarpon.
Yeah.
So, and, okay. Lucienne, the Safford Gateway Project.
I think everybody received the email that Diane prepared based on her her meeting with the city staff, and I would defer to her for a report on that meeting.
Yes, as you can see in the first paragraph, I met with personnel from Planning and Zoning, Project Administration, Public Services, Streets and Stormwater, and Public Works Department regarding this parcel. And, I realized very quickly that I don't really speak their language at all. But, this little dark area that's down, on the green map on the far left, they kept talking about a pond. And I was like, I kept looking at that going, well, it's just in the corner, kind of thing. It's not a problem, It's like, we'll do it, higher up. And they're like, no, the whole thing is called a pond. And they said, you can't really, it's used for drainage. And then there's another parcel of land that is for sale, that they're gonna need to do a what is the right terminology, where they're gonna have to be able to do a driveway through it or something
Oh,
from that
access-
parcel as well.
access road,
An access road, yes, thank you. And she said that at different times it will flood it, so if you're trying to do native landscaping or benches or have something where people can sit and, rest and relax and everything, like I believe Lucienne was kind of envisioning, they said you just can't do it at all in that area. And then they were exploring the idea of, well, maybe you could just do a stationary, sculpture of some size, or, that you could maybe put in just a section of that, you wouldn't require people to get close to it. And then the county got involved, and they said, no, you can't put anything in there. So, I mean, it was a wake-up call for me and a lesson learned that, it's like anytime you all decide you want to put something somewhere, it's really a good idea to vet it with all these departments, because to me, I go by that place to go to Winn-Dixie all the time, and I'm like, oh, well, it looks fine, kind of thing, so. And then the northern section, they do, I believe the city does have plans for a project, and I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sorry, but I hate to disappoint Lucianne, because we had the other, project that, we were gonna do, and, it's like, unfortunately, we just can't move forward in that area.
Well, I have a feeling that we might be able to do something on that northern property.
That's my understanding.
No.
I would like to add a little bit to that and remind us that city staff gave us not the property on this sheet, but the property on this sheet, which is the small triangular portion that points north. That was directly, we said we wanted to do something at that, along the trail. I think we were very vague. We said we want to do something along the trail, and they came back and gave us that triangular portion. The big plots that you see on this piece of paper are much bigger than the actual land that we would have used, and that frankly was my mistake communicating with Paramita doing the GIS map. So from the get-go, this originated with city staff. I feel it's really regretful that nobody from the committee participated in that meeting and could have advocated for the design of our project, taking all of those concerns into consideration. The roadway that you've just talked about, Diane, I don't understand how that could accommodate a roadway, but not a public art project. So I have serious concerns about this decision and the fact that it's been made without our participation. I would like to request that I and anybody else who's allowed to would meet with the one expert, local expert, who said he would serve as one of our advisors. I'd like to meet with him down there and with his expertise say, do you think this has legs? And if he says yes, then I'd like for us to request, and I'm putting this in the form of a motion, that we send a memo to the city manager and ask for an agenda item with the BOC. That is only if our expert says it has possibilities.
Okay.
I think we need something at the in the southern portion, and by that I mean from Tarpon Avenue to Mears, somewhere in that property. As far as the northern
Wait a minute.
parcel.
Before you continue.
Sure.
You did say it was a motion, so do I hear a second on the motion?
Yes. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Megan, do you want to call the roll, please?
Can we discuss the motion before we call the roll?
No.
No?
Oh, no, yes, now we can do, yeah, sorry.
And who are you wanting to meet with, the expert you're speaking of?
We, before you called me with this news, I had gotten agreement from 2 nationally known landscape architects to serve on our selection committee. When you called me, I quit contacting people. but we do have a local professionally qualified landscape architect who had agreed to serve with us. And if I can get him to meet with me down there, and, you know, if he says, asking for trouble, then I'm satisfied it's dead. If there is a possibility that design can provide some solutions, then I'd like for us to go ahead and get some support for the project.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. So, Megan, do you want to call the roll?
Can we have discussion about it?
Oh, you want more, just, sure.
Yeah, not just Lucianne. Can the rest of us say
Of
something?
course, yeah, I'm sorry,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I'm,
Yeah, first of all,
flu shots.
yeah, sorry. First of all, the explanation that you gave us, right? I'm sure it's exactly what they told you, but like Lucianne, I'm confused as to why it's got to be a pond that's allowed to flood, and yet it's also going to be an access road. In my mind, I cannot marry those two up. I just can't do it.
No, I think,
not-
excuse me, I'm sorry, maybe I misrepresented it, but it's like if that little parcel gets sold that's for sale, it would have like a little driveway that might access onto the street there, so.
Yes, but they say the entire lot is a pond, so, you know, and yet they're planning to put a driveway on it. Now, it's just like, I don't know, that doesn't fit, you know, it goes in one side and the other thing goes in the other, and they don't fit together.
What is gonna be sold?
But, anyway, nevertheless, whatever they said, there are other possibilities other than that lot. Just because that is the only city-owned chunk of land in that southern corridor does not mean that that is the only place that we can put or make a place rather than put a piece of artwork. For starters, there's the immediately opposite on Pinellas Trail, on Safford Avenue. There is that bottom corner of the shopping center lot, which is owned by, I forget the name of them, doesn't really matter, but they're doing a lot of rehabbing of the shopping center along there. They're redoing it. Yeah, Manatee, whatever it is.
Manatee Village.
Manatee Village, thank you. And it's entirely possible that they might find it attractive to donate to the city or provide for the city and the public arts a corner along there, you know, a sort of extended corner along there where we might do a making. Currently, there's parking for 2 cars there. And there's a lot of nothing, you know, some scrub and some sort of practically dead bushes. That's just one thought. Maybe we should ask them.
Talking here?
Well, when they,
Yeah, like in there.
Here? Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, when they presented to the Board of Commissioners, the developer, who I think is from Atlanta, indicated that he did want to discuss some public art projects with us,
Good.
so.
And if we go further up Safford Avenue to Martin Luther King, we find at the where those apartments are on Martin Luther King and Safford.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
can't
recall the
remember
name
the
of
name
them?
of them.
Yeah.
Santorini,
Santo-
Santos Isle.
Santos Island. Santos Isle is the name of the owner of those apartments, and south of Martin Luther King and west of Safford, there are 2 vacant lots between Martin Luther King and Morgan Street on the east side. The one on the northern half of that lot, again, is owned by the same people, by Santos, and it's got a lot of nice trees on it. I don't know what they want to do with that, but it's roughly 125 feet. Let me see, I can tell you exactly. It is, it's 125 feet by something. Anyway, it's roughly half the lot, north to south. And the one south of it with the pond on it is, 100 and, it's about 90 feet by 20, something, or by half the lot. And I was wondering if Santos Isle Commercial, who are a Florida company based in West Palm Beach, might be interested in helping out the Public Art Committee and Tarpon Springs in general by allowing us to either put some a making around that pond, which is currently fenced off by the city. It looks like city fencing, or possibly along the edge of their lot that's directly north of it. I don't know whether there are any covenants on those two pieces of land that were put there as a result of them building their low-income housing immediately to the north. I have absolutely no idea. Somebody in the city will know, but perhaps we could find out some information about those two lots and then contact Santos Isle if we don't get anywhere with either Manatee Village or with your expert for the other piece of land. So I don't think we should be giving up. I think there are more
no way,
there
no.
are more possibilities that are open to us.
Keep in mind, private land, you're gonna have to also make sure that they're gonna maintain whatever you put there.
Yes.
If they agree to it.
Yes. Yeah, well, it obviously, we'd have to have some sort of negotiation with them. They'd have to come to some arrangement with the city. They'd either donate it or long-term lease it, or whatever they have to do to provide it as an art spot.
Yeah, it's like the apartment building that had a Banksy on the side of it, and the Banksy was worth more than the building.
Yes, yes. Now, that piece of land was worth a lot more money a few years ago than it is today, in the same way that the apartments that are, the Santos Isle apartments are not worth nearly as much as they were when they built them in 2013. That's just the way real estate has gone.
Yeah.
That kind of development isn't worth as much as it used to be. So, they might be interested in writing off part of their investment as, a contribution to the well-being of Tarpon Springs.
That's an interesting concept. So I think, Lucianne, you and
I
maybe I'd drag
think
some
as
back-
many possibilities as we can explore, that's only to our credit, because our concept has always been southern project, northern
Right.
project.
And thank you for researching all of that, Graham.
Well, I was horrified when I read what Diane sent us. I
Right.
mean, not horrified at Diane, but horrified at the content.
Right.
It was a bitter disappointment.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll keep forging ahead and, it's a very worthwhile project and we'll find a way to get it done somewhere.
Yep.
But I think a great first step is to get someone who knows what they're talking about, rather than me, to look at that lot.
Or me.
So before you go to the vote, do you wanna go ahead and poll the other members, or what are you gonna do?
Yeah, Bill, do you want to have any?
Yeah, I agree. It lends itself to getting an expert to take a look at it. I do think it is going to be problematic. I think there's calculations that are done for Southwest Water Management where they know exactly how much space, cubic feet is in that area and what kind of storms it handles. And, all the permitting for these, that's probably a permitted pond is what I'm gonna
And-
guess.
and Swift
We have
Water,
one in our neighborhood, and we have to get the permit renewed every 18 months. And you have to demonstrate that nothing went in there to take up any of the space that the water can take up in the event of a weather event. So
Exactly.
there's a lot of things with this little spit of land that I think are gonna be complicated, but I do think it's worthy of having someone take a look at it, get a fresh opinion on it. And then I think we follow Graham's lead. There's a number of things between Martin Luther King and the trailhead there, I'll call it, right there at Mears going south, that we've gotta be able to come up with some location in there that we
Right.
can move forward with the project.
Right.
Right, agreed. Biba?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that those options are probably more viable than this. My issue is mainly why, I mean, I think it's probably problematic, as they say it is. My issue is, why didn't they say that in the first place before this got any further?
Well, you know, we started out with a GIS map kind of thing, and so I guess when, Joan, you had the meeting with Mark and Paul suggested a survey, and,
Right.
you know, rightly so, because, you know, he had concerns about that property too, which is why they got all those specialists together. They also had to, you know, find out from Swift Mud and, you know, different, you know, places. It's like, is this viable or not? I mean, they were working on your behalf. They weren't trying to squelch
No,
your
that's
thoughts and
understood, yeah.
dreams. It's just a matter of, it's like, there's land that you can work with, you know, for certain reasons, and there's land that you can't, you know, for others. So it's just determining, you know, what can and can't be done, I think, so.
Yeah, I mean, my question on that is just really the timing. Like, before there was much, effort and legwork done, that part, which you said, lesson learned. So,
Yeah.
that should be done before everything else, so that, is it a viable piece of property or not? But, I mean, I can see where there are possible issues. My concern with bringing the expert landscape person down there, while I'm sure that they can find a way to fix things, that doesn't make it doable with the city, right? If there's an issue with that pond being, whatever you just said, somebody about.
What Bill said.
Yeah, Bill said, somebody said something about like, where,
Answered better.
yeah,
Permitted pond,
yeah, I don't know anything. Yeah, permitted pond. Thank you. I couldn't remember what. Then that's going to be an issue whether it's fixable or not. So, you see, is it better to go with the expert and somebody from the city that knows these things together, so that they can have that conversation since they speak the same language, rather than, because we may be, asking for solutions that there are other reasons why they can't be had.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. with
I think,
that.
I think the problem is here, we have a chicken and an egg situation. You know, we started working on a project with insufficient information, and I know you put a lot of work into it, but now we have
Well-
the information and,
My work, I mean, I did it, I'm fine with that. I don't consider it a personal deal. I would just like to see us have the advantage of as much input as we can get.
right.
So that's why I'm asking to
Okay.
put it to a vote, to see what
Okay.
everybody else is comfortable with.
Right. Any more discussion?
Yeah, perhaps if we do have someone that you find, this person that you found come down and have a look, they could also have a look at that entire stretch of Safford between Martin Luther King and Mears. And perhaps we could also have Paul or somebody else from the city to come and do that walk with you and the expert. See if we can arrange it
That
that
would
way.
make more sense to
Yeah.
me.
Do you
Because
wanna,
then you're having multiple, at least if you have them being able to have that conversation.
Lucianne, do you want to amend the motion?
To include a survey of the whole stretch.
Yes.
Mears
I so amend it.
Okay, second?
Second,
Bill? Okay.
yeah.
I guess, unless we have more discussion, Megan, could you call the roll, please?
Can I read you the motion?
Sure.
The motion for Ms. Robinson to meet with a local expert and look over the southern end property and decide if it has merit to move forward as PAC requested. If the local expert advises that yes, there is potential, the PAC will then request a spot on the agenda for the next BOC meeting to review the decision. Additionally, the expert will review the strips of land along Safford Avenue with Ms. Robinson to look for other potential locations.
I don't think that's completely correct, because I think
Yeah.
we need to meet with the city personnel too,
Right.
not just go straight to the BOC, because I mean,
Agree.
Yeah,
the city, they gave you their decision, you know, based on all of their meetings with all the personnel to try to, you know, to determine if we could do it. So that whoever Lucianne chooses, you know, to have come out should also meet with the city personnel too, you know, to have so they can, they can both explain to each other, you know, what their concerns are or what they see as a potential, you know.
Lucianne, do you have any thought about rewording the motion?
I don't know who that city person would be. I wasn't included in the meeting, so I don't know who's actually carrying the water. you know.
Right.
guess
So
I'll
you know, I'm,
Do you want to say appropriate
Appropriate city
city
staff.
staffer?
yeah.
Yeah, because there were like 5 departments involved, so we'll have to determine who that would be.
yeah. And to lose the bit about the BOC meeting,
Lose it?
yeah,
Sure.
At this stage, anyway.
at this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, until we get a result from that meeting, and then we
Okay.
can decide what to do about it.
Okay,
I'm agreeable to that.
okay. Megan, would you like to read it again, please?
Motion for Ms. Robinson to meet with a local expert and appropriate city staff representative and look over the southern end property and decide if it has merit to move forward as PAC requested. Additionally, the expert will review the strips of land along Safford Avenue to look for other potential locations.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Would you like
Call
to
the
vote?
roll?
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Meals.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes,
Ms. Christopoulos.
Yes.
Chair Jennings.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, you can vote today because you're just sitting in for a missing
Chairman,
member.
if I may.
Yes.
Just as a follow-up to this, as a lessons learned, I think we've talked about it a number of times over the last several years, to take advantage of any potential Department of Public Works projects that are coming up, that we can piggyback our public art on top of it. Sometimes the lift to make something happen someplace without that
Well, on the
momentum that's already
Yeah.
going, I think we could get so much more
Right.
traction if we really piggyback on top of
Right,
some
like the
public-
city recently
public
installed
works.
2 public water fountains.
The city has, you know, under projects, like on the website, all the projects that are ongoing right now. So you could just go on to the city website anytime under projects, and you could see all of them.
Yeah, it's difficult to look at that list and really get a sense of what the city, sometimes what they're looking to do or the timing on it, because sometimes it gets delayed, sometimes. It's almost like we need a little bit more synergy between public works and public art in order to make that happen, and make it, you know, just knit together a little tighter. It's tough.
if I may?
Yes.
I agree completely. For instance, at the end of Martin Luther King, where it meets the bayou down there, there's a public works project that has possibly been funded but hasn't been fully designed yet. And they're talking about a number of options, either raising the roadway or building a berm, or doing it. And when they do finally decide what they're going to do there, that means that whole section of street there where there's a big 5-way intersection is going to be torn up, and also the seawall's going to be torn up and replaced. And that would be an ideal opportunity for us to get involved and have some sort of either a placemaking or an artwork down there, because that's going to be a fairly significant project that's involving not only the city, but also Swift Mud and the utility people and the county. You know, I like your idea.
And
If we can
Debbie-
piggyback onto something like that.
Debbie had mentioned it, and I had thought of it as well. Down in Clearwater, where the overpass is on 19, somebody was creative enough to put art into the concrete. that-
Right.
Instead of, when you're sitting there at a traffic light, looking at a blank concrete wall, you've got seashells, you've got, that's the type of thing that we've really got to be tied into early on those projects. And it's just got to be a little bit more synergy between Department
Right.
of Public Works, because I think we could enhance their projects, and we could really make a statement about public art in the
Right.
community.
Lucianne?
Yeah, several of us made this point during the comprehensive plan workshop out at SPC, that public art isn't just plunking a statue down on top of the project that you just spent $40 million on. It should be integrated into the initial design and planning, and the Whitcomb Bayou is a perfect example.
Yep.
Because there are, in fact, living shoreline tiles that can be done in relief in an artistic way that line the seawall and create habitat for water filtering mussels. But these are things that have to get in on the ground floor. All kinds of enhancements.
Yeah.
Robert and Carol Mickett have done projects like this where they're in on the ground floor with the architects and engineers, and we somehow have to get that
In?
contribution
Right.
into the DNA of city planning. I could not
And-
agree more.
And right now, the major project that the city's doing together with county and others is the redesign of the Tarpon Avenue US 19 intersection.
Oh.
And we're spending a lot of money there. You know, perhaps
Yeah.
that's another opportunity.
Yeah, using Bill's example, I mean, I'm sure if you're gonna be pouring concrete, it wouldn't make that much of a difference to pour it into one mold instead of another. You know, decorative mold.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, yeah, everybody's throwing out some really good ideas.
So how do we get this message across and incorporated?
Probably the place to start would be the city manager and/or the mayor. So it's gotta be a trickle down from there. I don't think we can just approach department heads.
Right, that's why they ask, to go through me to the department heads, so
Right.
I can, talk to, Paul Smith and see
Right.
what he recommends, too.
Maybe inviting them as a guest to a meeting, and that way we
Yeah.
can have a conversation
Right.
about that.
So catch him soon, he's probably in a good mood from the meeting last night.
I missed that one, 'cause I had class. Anything good happen?
Oh, it's very interesting.
I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
Chinese curse meeting, may you live in interesting times.
Okay. But yeah, I think inviting him here would be, a good place to start. That way there can be a discussion about that.
Okay. Well, I feel very energized in spite of my 3 vaccinations yesterday, which has kind of made me a little loggy. Yeah, I think we're on the right track here. We just have to get our pelicans in a row.
Good plan.
Yes. Okay, Diane, we're on to the Storybook Time bench, and you included a picture, and I didn't realize it was that awful.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bad. I did talk to Nick Toth, and, he's still pretty, set on a stone bench. He has done some research on it, he's not at this meeting, but, I believe the October meeting, he'll bring some, options.
Okay.
Yeah, I went and had a look at the bench the other day and put my hands on it, and it's sad.
Yeah, it's really a lot, far worse
Yeah.
than,
Well, most of those kind of benches, I guess a lot of them, they weather and it's fine that they're grayed out and they're weathered and everything, and that's kind of the,
It's a story of New England, basically.
but, I think for this one, maybe it's, people don't really go up to it that close, so I don't think the Joe public is actually realizing that it's like this. And my concern is that I don't want the bench to disintegrate and, drive by one day and see the story time sculpture sitting on the concrete, so.
One of the things you might want to mention to Nick Toth, and because I had a friend who did it, actually did his whole kitchen in it, polished concrete. It can be, it ends up looking like marble, and it's obviously like a tenth of the cost. And basically, you just, set it like you would set anything else. And, and then just polish it.
Yeah, he was
So you
looking at
end up
some,
with a surface like this in concrete. It's quite attractive.
yeah, his concern was he wanted something that would be really easy maintenance free,
Well,
kind of thing,
what,
of
there's
course.
nothing easier than concrete.
Yeah, I mean, that's why
Yeah.
he was like looking at the stone,
Yeah, and it would probably be a lot, much more reasonable than carving a stone,
probably.
one would
I'll let him
assume.
know.
Okay, that's great, okay. I'll see if I can get some information too on the polished concrete. Okay. Megan, you're up. Budget update and developer contributions.
All right. As of right now, there are no new permits issued.
Okay,
There may be one by the next meeting. That's per Pat McNeese.
okay,
The only change in the fund is interest revenue. The total balance as of August 31st, 2022 is $232,826.
okay.
And just a reminder, I am about to put in the first payment for Stephen Oliver and as well as Elizabeth Indianos.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. We have nothing in the CMA mural requests? No. Okay, ordinance edits review, okay. I had a meeting with Mayor Vaticiotis, City Manager LaCourse, and Paul Smith regarding the changes we made to the ordinance. I think we arrived at a good compromise solution. Basically, both Paul and Mark were rather adamant about keeping the $1 million benchmark for the development. And there are two things at play, which the mayor brought up, is one, the cost of doing any projects has gone up because of inflation and the cost of materials. So more projects will be likely in that stratosphere. And the other concern is kind of the opposite side of the coin, where just the temperature in the city itself does not lend itself to big developments. People are, I think, more concerned with smart development and doing things on a more reasonable scale. So, what the mayor suggested, and Paul Smith's going to work on the wording of it, is to add a provision in the ordinance to allow the PAC to request a grant from the city in order to sustain us in our project. So in other words, if we find, a Picasso, reproduction statue that's $100,000 and we've got $50,000 in our budget, we can petition, if the BLC approves the project, we can petition the city to come up with the balance. So, let's see. Oh, and the other major change was they left in the developer option, but we made some stipulations to it to make it a little more discouraging, shall we say. And one of the major changes that actually Mark mentioned, there'll be no public art projects on any roadway with speeds over 35 miles an hour because it's considered a safety hazard because it's, I guess technically it's considered an attractive nuisance. So I think that will keep a lot of things, I think one of our goals was to keep a lot of things off 19. And plus it's a cluttered mess already. So, I mean, to put an art project in there is, putting something nice in the middle of something, all those, store signs and things of that sort. Lucienne, do you have any comments or questions?
My question is, we removed the upward limit on the developer's
yes.
budget,
Yes.
both for city-funded projects and developer projects.
Right,
Did
well,
that
the city supplementation would have to be something they can afford. In other words, we couldn't ask them for $5 million.
No, I mean,
in their
Am I missing-
projects. Yeah.
when our funding into the Public Art Fund is based on the cost of the project.
Right,
If it's $1 million threshold, but it's going to cost $10 million. In the past, we've had a limit on what
right, no, the limit's taken off.
the limit has been
Right,
removed
I'll check and make sure that,
for both private development
Right.
and city
Right.
projects.
I'm pretty sure it was done, but I will check. And the other thing was the student ad hoc member, was changed from a voting member to, non-voting, or, ad hoc member. Okay, Bill?
Yeah, you had mentioned that the projects would be smaller in the city because we're trying to keep them smaller. So wouldn't that lend itself to acknowledging that we would lower that limit from $1 million down? Because the projects are in fact going to be smaller that are done.
But the point the mayor made, even though they're smaller because of inflation and the cost of building materials, even a so-called smaller project would be $1 million or close to it.
Yeah.
So, the thing that's always stuck in my cross, so to speak, is the bank building. And, and somehow miraculously, they managed to do that bank for $800,000. I'm still scratching my head over that one.
Flagship?
Flagship. So,
Check
Yep.
which contractor they use.
yeah,
Maybe the one you get a price from.
right.
Okay, so even though the projects are smaller, they still aren't interested in lowering?
No,
Okay.
no. They really stuck to their guns on that one, so. Graham?
Yes, you said they wanted to keep the developer option. One of the problems with the developer option, apart from the obvious one, the elephant in the room, was that the wording of the ordinance is such that any developer who qualifies for the developer option can choose to allocate either 0.75% or 1%
No,
at
that's gonna
his
be.
discretion.
No, it's gonna be 1%
Okay,
across the board.
so they've agreed to change that?
Yes.
Okay.
I had
Good.
quite an argument with them on that because logically, it doesn't make sense to have that sliding rate,
No,
especially, I mean, it's like 0.25%, come on.
yes.
It's gonna be
That didn't make any.
47 cents.
Didn't make any sense to me at all. And the other thing is, so, let me see if I understand this. The city isn't going to make an annual allocation in the budgeting process towards the Public Art Committee. They are going to allow us to apply for unlimited grants as and when we choose for any project that they already approve, which means that we have to be sure of funding it before we ask them, and then, because we can't ask them if we're not sure of funding it, because if they approve it, then we've got to fund it. And so how's this going to work with then applying later for a grant to top up our coffers? Is that what it is?
Well, it's not a grant per se. It would be direct funding from the city. So in other words, everything we do goes through a process. You know, it's like the Black Heritage Project. You know, so we've got something, for $135,000 already in the pipeline,
Yes.
okay? But let's say that, Lucienne finds a hidden Picasso and she can get it, for us for 250,000. Let's say, she can get it for $200,000 because she's a
I'm
real
not
tough
giving it to the
negotiator.
PAC, I'm taking it to
Right.
you.
So, okay, but let's say that, out of the goodness of her heart, she decides she wants to plant it somewhere in Tarpon Springs. So we have $200,000. So the thing is, if we take advantage of Lucienne's Picasso find, that would wipe out the money for the Black Heritage Project. But in that case, the city would step in and supplement this back up. See, the thing is that everything has to go through a bidding and approval process. So in that process itself, we can determine what our budgetary needs are and ask the city, hey, we need, the city says, oh yeah, we love Lucienne's Picasso, so,
So the plan would be, as part of asking for BOC approval for projects over 10,000 or whatever it is, 10,000?
over 15.
Over 15,000. We would at the same time say, for instance, we'd like approval for this $50,000 project, and please, would you contribute 25,000 to it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's another incentive to really marrying up with Department of Public Works so that it's all part of a project
have
too.
it.
Yes.
Right.
That's huge in
Yeah.
the
Okay.
scope of things.
Yeah.
Fine. Now I understand.
Yeah, no, we had quite an interest, extensive conversation about this, and that was brought up, and, the whole idea that, we don't approve and pay for something right off the bat. So we can project costs out. So in other words, per the ordinance, we have to give an annual report at the end of May, beginning of June. So what we could do is at that annual report, and it's been done for years, is to project art projects going forward. Like, we talked about doing the art boxes, before we actually did them. So we presented a plan as part of the annual report. We give them an idea of what we've done and what we've spent, what we'd like to do, and what we'd like to have in our budget to get it accomplished. If they approve it, then we move forward and they make sure we have the wherewithal to do it. Does that make sense?
So we could actually have some input into the forecast numbers for the Public Art Committee that currently appear in the annual budgeting process.
Right. And the
That'd be
idea,
good.
right, and the idea of, that report normally taking place, as I said, beginning of June, that would be enough for us to get our budget request into the budgetary pipeline.
Okay.
So, Biba, do you have any comments, questions? I think it will work because, both the mayor and Mark, were predicting, a downtick in big projects. And, and that seems to be the sentiments of the residents. I think that's why they put this particular commission in place. And, like, we'll be getting a big chunk of money from the new city clerk's office. That's a city project, but we're still gonna be getting, an infusion of funds. And, there were a couple of, other things that are, coming along. Oh, yeah, the other question that came up, and I think this is a legal problem, is that lately there seem to be a number of properties that have requested annexation. Particularly our much-needed car wash on the corner of Klosterman and 19. So they put quite a bit of money into that. And, you know, and it's got to be at least $1 million. But when they did it, they weren't part of Tarpon Springs. But now, because they want to use Tarpon's, you know, utilities, et cetera, they've requested to be annexed in. So, you know, I mean, everybody could do that. It's a loophole. So I think that's also got to be looked into to close that loophole. And that's really a legal question as to whether you can, you know, kind of go back and levy a fee on somebody who's already completed their project in another jurisdiction.
Maybe if there were a time frame, like within a year,
That's a good idea.
but would that be a provision in our ordinance, or would that have to be part of some bigger city document?
Again, a legal question, because,
Did y'all talk about that in your meeting?
no, it's something I've been mulling over. And, you know, frankly, we were more concerned on the, you know,
So
about the
for them to
budget.
hook up to any of the city's utilities, there would be fees associated with that. Wouldn't think that it would be inappropriate that there's also a public art fee. If, you know, for them to hook up to the sewer, there's gonna be a fee. For them to hook up to
Right.
water, any of those utilities.
Well, the other thing too is if you're building something of that sort, that scope, you're gonna know you're gonna need a sewer. Especially a car wash.
Yes.
So, but anyway, that's a pretty convoluted legal.
Lifestyle connection fee.
Right. There you go. Okay, so,
Can we go back to the clerk's office that you mentioned?
sure.
Where is that? Is that being designed? Where, I mean, is that something we could get in on the ground floor and,
I frankly
been
don't know.
designed.
Does anybody know? Diane, do you know if it's?
That's listed on their projects too, on the projects page, and I
Right.
think there is backup on that. I'm not out of my,
Right, I have a feeling that the current building's gonna be demolished,
I think so, yeah.
because it was the old cafeteria?
But is there
it is?
design concepts
bur-
that have been?
Friday
Oh,
night
I think it's
dances.
way
yeah,
beyond that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
think it's been designed already, it's been out to bid,
Right.
so. But I'm not,
it's done.
construction hasn't started, obviously.
So could that be a place that we could, since it is a city project, we could make a case for incorporating the public art component into it now instead of when
Sounds like
it's
it's pretty,
finished?
pretty far along, though.
But they haven't done any construction, I mean, you know. kind of
Once
thing,
it's
so-
designed and it's out for bid, you know.
Yeah, but you're not
Well, you can
talking
still
about
make
doing
modifications.
rooms or something, you know, you're not talking about adding a room, you're just artistic component or something.
Right, I,
What
you
about
know,
art on the walls? I mean, is that part of art?
The city clerk's office replacement, construction of city clerk's building on City Hall campus is 100% design complete. And construction has not yet started. The construction project has been awarded. Contracts have been executed with the contractor. And project commencement is expected early to mid-September. That's about now.
So then, when are they obligated to make their contribution to the Public Art Fund?
as soon as they request permits.
Yeah, certificate of occupancy, basically, the end.
No, they have to,
Not at the beginning, no, it's like.
At the beginning?
No, it's at when they
I
get
think
the-
they have to, when they pull the permits, then they have to get involved in the process of paying the fee, and then it's gotta be paid before they get their CVO,
Their CO, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they can't get
So
the
that
sand.
should be pretty soon.
Right. Does it say who the contractor is?
No, it does not. Refers to
On the
them as
city website.
contractor.
Okay.
And you got that on the city website,
Yeah.
Graham?
Yeah, the project status summary, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what they would put on their walls as far as art is concerned, is that something that goes through this committee, or is that?
It could be, I think that's Lucy Ann's point. I think we should, you know, and Bill's point, and with all of our points, you know,
No,
we
I
should
wasn't
be.
sure if you were talking about something, built in, or I'm just talking about, decor, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
paintings they hang on the walls.
Right.
Yeah, well, either that, or, I mean, you know, sometimes you can incorporate, I mean, I've seen, there's a hotel right at the end of the causeway that has, it's almost like a whole wall of a waterfall in the lobby of the hotel. It's quite lovely. It's very relaxing. I forget the name of the hotel. But, you know, it's just when, you know, on the left as you come across the causeway, like if you're heading to the airport. And,
Courtney Campbell.
yes.
Oh.
And,
So do you think we can incorporate into the city projects portion of our ordinance a requirement that the Public Art Committee,
be consulted at the very least.
yeah,
I think it's definitely worth bringing up in that meeting that you're going to have.
Yeah.
otherwise, we're gonna end up at this point every time, trying to play catch-up.
Yeah, the sooner the better. And if you need moral support, I'm more than happy to attend.
I don't know if you can, unfortunately.
Joan, I would say in preliminary design stages.
Right. Okay.
When I'm asking Paul Smith these other questions, I'll ask him that one too.
Okay. Thank God he's got such a good nature, that man.
Yes.
He'd be murdering all of us. Okay, I think that just about covered it with the ordinance edits. Comment, staff comments, Diane?
We're kicking off our new season this weekend with Bio Radio Theater. Who's gonna be, our director is Graham Jones, who you may have heard of, and
He who threatens us to buy tickets.
tickets for this weekend and next weekend. Friday night is the 7 o'clock show, Saturday and Sunday are both 2 o'clock shows, and it will be very entertaining, and we've got to focus on Alfred Hitchcock. So please get your tickets, go to tarponarts.org.
Right. Megan, anything?
It's going to be a great show.
Yes? Okay, I guess my comment is that the Christopher Still mural was unveiled at the newly renovated lobby of Advent Health North Pinellas. It's called Beautiful and Historic Tarpon Springs. The outgoing CEO, Jason Dunkel, actually referenced the PAC as being involved in the early planning of the mural. So Chris and I believe his name was Starkey, also produced an amazing hour-long film about, you know, the making of the mural, the research, interviewed people who, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with his work, but he incorporates a lot of local people and things in his paintings, all these little details. Like one of the shells, I believe, was one that was discovered by Mayor Vaticiotis' grandfather. Father, thank you. But, you know, and two of the children in it are the son and daughter of Jacqueline and Keaton Tunstall from Rusty Bellies. So there's a lot of, you know, local nuances. And they did give out like a brochure that was a key to all the elements. It's not as nice as our aluminum key for the mural in the Heritage Center. We're just such a class act.
I do have one more, if you don't mind.
What?
I do have one more announcement, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
The library is, got a special event this weekend, let's see, it's the 17th,
Right.
and, it's.
I think it's 10 to 2, so you
10
can
to
race over
2.
to the Bayou.
Right, then you
Radio
can just
Theater.
go walk right across the street and go to the show. But, and then they're gonna be doing a cake cutting at 11 o'clock with the mayor and some of the commissioners, you know, if you wanna go to that. But
Okay.
they're having, all day from 10 to 2, all kinds of activities. So if you have time, please go by.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? I know you want to plug your show.
Well, no, actually, I thought Diane had done a wonderful job of
Oh, okay.
plugging my show. No, I wanted to plug something else,
Okay.
if I may. I found out, to my eternal delight, that hanging on the wall behind the main desk as you go into the public library is an original Christopher Still that was donated by Elizabeth and Mike Coachman. And it's a beautiful piece. And if you haven't seen it, go to the library and look at it. They don't mind you standing there staring at it, peering over their heads.
Right,
But, it's
it
well worth
actually,
it.
right, it actually formed the basis for the applique that's on the side of the chamber building. I think
Yes.
Chris still modified it with some lettering and some other things, but it's basically the same painting.
Yeah,
So, Biba?
and you don't have to go to hospital to see it.
Right. Is anyone else going to that placemaking workshop at Ruth Eckert that Diane had sent out?
The one on the 30th,
No.
September
I
30th.
signed up.
I did too, okay.
Maybe we-
I think we can carpools to things like that.
Yeah, I don't unfortunately have any room in my car because I'm taking a lot of my staff members to it. But, you know, I just wanted to put it out there in case any of y'all were
I
interested in
appreciate
it.
that, sounds
Well,
interesting.
should be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna try. It's,
Okay.
I've got family visiting from the UK, and it's kind of having to entertain them in the vacation capital of the world is a
Right.
little time consuming.
Okay, well, I am adjourning the meeting at 3:27 PM. Thank you all very much. I think it was a very productive meeting. Thank you for the mugs, Diane.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.